What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Guy Matt. I'm back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the Commander and Infernos on my quest to brew in Magic World. As always, the deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. As always, I would greatly appreciate any interaction you can do with the video, like, comment, and subscribe for me. Today, we are continuing Modern Horizons 3 Precon Week, talking about the Precons and my brews for the face Commanders. If you're looking for just my small upgrades, I do a $50 upgrade series that's going to be down in the description below, as well as up on the channel now for this deck. But this is going to be my full brew for it, different budget level. So today we're talking about Disa the Relentless, a 5-mana 5/6 human scout that says whenever a Goyf permanent card is put from your graveyard into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, put it onto the battlefield. Whenever one or more creatures you control do a command damage to a player, you create a Tarmogoyf token. If you had asked me before Modern Horizons 3 if I thought a graveyard-based Jund deck based around Tarmogoyf was a thing that I thought would exist, I would not have had it on my bingo card. But we have Luroyfs. Luroyfs are a creature type, of course, based around that token in the top right-hand corner. Tarmogoyf, a card that was both enigmatic of the modern format and is no longer a part of it now, which says Tarmogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among all cards in graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number plus 1. Okay, not in it now. It's not popular like it used to be. Tarmogoyf's interesting, right? The number of card types in all graveyards is very interesting. Of course, there's a maximum to this now, which I believe is 7, 8. With battles, right? So it's interesting. It can only get so big. But we want to try to maximize our deck to do this. We're going to talk about the Goyfs that we have in the deck. There's a lot more Goyfs, especially with this deck adding a ton of new ones. So who we're trying to mill or who we're trying to get into our graveyards, we can get them back for free. We'll talk about some self-mill and discard ways to get more Goyfs into the graveyard and get them back onto the battlefield. How we can get our creatures back, so after the Goyfs die, we can try to get them back. And then just how we're going to do damage in combat. I mean, combat's important and we want to do it. So, let's talk about the Goyfs. So, for a long time, I mean, Luroyfs existed, but there was so few of them that it didn't really matter. I think what's really interesting about this deck is it's taken the couple that were half decent, give us a bunch of new ones, and then give us the reminder that changelings exist. So Goyf is one of the new ones, Death Touch Lifelink. Power is equal to the number of card types in all graveyards. So same thing as Tarmogoyf, but it also adds that if it just comes into a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you can put a creature from among them into your hand. So the thing you're going to notice as we go through the Goyfs that I wish would stay consistent, but I can understand why it isn't, is each of the stars means something different. That could be the one part of this deck that could be confusing for some people. Bloodline Pretender, when it comes in, choose a creature type. Whenever another creature of that type enters the battlefield, put a counter on it. So you're going to pick Luroyf. All of the tokens that come in off Disa are Luroyfs. All these creatures are Luroyfs, and it's going to get big. Detritivore. Power toughness equal to the number of non-basic lands in your opponent's graveyards. You can suspend it, and whenever a time counter is removed from it, while it's removed from the game, destroy her a non-basic land. So basically, you can seed those into the graveyard to make it bigger when it comes out. Luroyf, power and toughness equal to the number, of course, just the exact same effect as Tarmogoyf. Mortivore, power and toughness equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards and the ability to regenerate it. Necrogoyf, power is equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player has to discard a card, and we can play it with its madness cost. So you can start to see that each of these Luroyfs is a little different. I think that's what makes it kind of fun in some way. Nethergoyf from Modern Horizons 3, equal to the number of card types, and you can escape it back, which is kind of interesting. Polygoyf, Trample, and Myriad, and same thing as that effect, but Myriad makes it kind of fun. I mean, you can spread the love. Pyrogoyf equals the number of card types, so just like Tarmogoyf, but when it or another Luroyf ETBs, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So cool, we get a Warstorm Surge type effect, which is really cool on a Luroyf. Well, we had to put Tarmogoyf in there, so the actual original Tarmogoyf, I chose the Fallout version there. Tarian Mauler, being a shapeshifter, makes it a Luroyf, and it can get bigger for everybody who casts a spell. Terravore's power and toughness equal to the number of land cards in all graveyards, so could potentially get bigger there. Massive Nexus can turn every creature we control and every creature we don't own into a Luroyf, meaning everything's going to get to come back. Same thing with Conspiracy, making everything we own in our deck a Lurgoyf. And then Tarmogoyf Nest can get onto a land and give that land an ability to make a Tarmogoyf token. So we got lots of abilities to make these Goyfs and make them relevant. Well, how are we going to get some cards in the graveyard? Well, the deck actually includes a couple Planeswalkers that are really good for this. Grist is really good for this. Making an insect and then milling a card. And if an insect card was milled, you put a loyalty and repeat it. Well, it's just going to make sure that cards get milled, and we're going to hope we hit enough Goyfs in the process. Liliana, Death's Majesty, creates a 2/2 zombie and mills 2 cards. That's pretty cool. And it has the option to bring something back. Grist has the option to sack a creature to destroy a creature, Planeswalker, and then the -5 can get people to lose some life. Random Realmbreaker seems like a ton of fun. The -2 mills 3 and puts a permanent from among the milled cards into our hands. If we don't hit a Goyf, at least we can potentially get a land or something back. And then Random Realmbreaker will actually let all of our lands tap for mana of any color, which is pretty cool. The +1 just gives us turns a land into a creature, and then the -7 will actually let us play things out of our graveyard, which is super beneficial as well. We're playing the new Grist as well. On the front side, it says whenever it or another creature ETBs under your control from our graveyard or cast from our graveyard, we can pay a green and flip it. Well, all of our Lurgoyfs are going to be able to come back from our graveyard with Disa, which means it's going to flip really easy. And then on the back side, you can make an insect and mill 2 and put a death touch counter on the token. If black card is milled this way, destroy an artifact, and then make a copy of everything in our graveyard except their insects. I just like, it giving you a way to mill some cards as well and being fairly cheap, and having something like Destroy Target Artifact or Enchantment really helps on that. And then Breach the Multiverse. I mean, who doesn't love Breach the Multiverse as a potential finisher? Everybody's going to mill 10. The thing to remember is that Disa's abilities are not going to go off while this is resolving, meaning that they'll go off after it's done resolving, so you don't want to pick a Lurgoyf for this ability from your own graveyard, because they're going to come back automatically once we're done, but you'll get to pick something from everybody else's graveyard. Buried Alive can go get 3 Lurgoyfs of your choice, put them into your graveyard, and just get them back with Disa on the battlefield. Faithless Looting, draw 2 and then discard 2, and the cool part here is we can start talking about how discarding cards can get them into the graveyard for the purposes of Disa and get them back onto the battlefield. Life from the Loam has a fun way to dredge and make sure we're milling consistently, just using that dredge plan to put things into the graveyard, get the lands back that we dredge, and just keep trying to feed Lurgoyfs into our graveyard. We have things like Unmarked Grave and Entomb, which can just put the creature of our choice into our graveyard and get it back. Big Score is just another example of, discarding, right, and getting things back. Same thing with Unexpected Windfall. You're pitching a card each time and drawing, and if we pitch a Lurgoyf, it'll come back. You have things like Grapple with the Past, mill 3 and return a creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. Grisly Salvage. Reveal the top 5, put a creature or land from among them in your hand, and put the rest into your graveyard, meaning that those Lurgoyfs will then come back. So here we go. Just more ways to get those Lurgoyfs into the graveyards to get them back onto the battlefield. And as far as Recursion goes, what's important here is that Disa will put them back the first time, but she's not going to put them back when they go from the graveyard from the battlefield to the graveyard. So we want to find a way to also get them back that way. So we have things like Chainer and Reanimate to just get them back that way. Shigeki is actually a fun way to mill some more cards and potentially get some more Lurgoyfs out that way. Unearth can get a creature card with mana value 3 or less from our graveyard back to the battlefield, and a lot of our Lurgoyfs are under that threshold. Victimize, way to do some reanimating. Torch's Existence is a fun one. We can pay a black to choose and discard a creature card to return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand. This means that we could pitch a Lurgoyf to bring a Lurgoyf back to our hand and get that Lurgoyf that we pitched onto the battlefield, which could be very, very helpful. And as far as getting stuck in, Garruk's Uprising to give us Trample, Rhythm of the Wild to give those Goyfs haste when they come in could be very helpful, or that counter. And then Alter the Goyf. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X on the turn, where X is the number of card types among all cards in your graveyards, and just give all of our Lurgoyfs trampled. So again, giving even those Tarmogoyf tokens that Disa makes trample. And that's really important, that we turn all of these things we're making into damage, especially by giving them abilities like trampled. But no deck is perfect. Like I like to say all the time on this channel, this is my version 1.0 version of the deck, and I think you learn a lot in testing, and there's probably a lot we can learn in this deck. And here are 3 cards that I really, really liked. I just wasn't able to find a way to keep them in the list, but I think they would become really important. Gorgoy Grave Troll is another example of a dredge card we can use to really help mill. We are playing Dakbor Salvage in the list, which is another very popular dredge card. But Gorgoy Grave Troll says that ETBs with plus and plus counter for each creature card in your graveyard, we can remove a counter from it to regenerate it, or we can dredge 6. So if we would draw a card, we can mill 6 and return it from our graveyard to our hand. This feels really good if we can get it into the graveyard with one of those like discard abilities to really just start dredging through our deck and getting all of our Lurgoyfs. Insidious Roots gives all of our tokens the ability to add a tap for mana. Feels really good when we're making all of these Tarmogoyf tokens. And then whenever one of our creature cards leave a graveyard, we can make a plant and then put a counter on each plant. This feels really good because when all those Lurgoyfs come back to the battlefield with Disa's ability, it's going to trigger the Roots. It was really hard to cut Roots. Roots is probably my favorite of these 3 cards that I had to cut. But the problem is it was so hard to get the ratios right. I still don't think I'm going to know for sure until you play the deck. And then Magnivore, another Lurgoyf, but its power type is taken to the number of sorcery cards in all graveyards. And this might be kind of brutal depending on when you see it in the game. I just thought there are some other slots in the decks to some, self-mill or recursion that I wanted to put in just to round out the deck and maybe not need to feel like I need to include every Lurgoyf possible. Let's get into some play tests. Here we're keeping a 2-lander with an Ignoble Hierarch, which of course is a great card, can tap for some good mana. This will put us slightly behind unless we draw a better land on turn 2 because that Summit's going to come in tapped. But it may still allow us to use some other things, so we'll see. Well, turn 2 we didn't get a good land that way, but we did get Grist, Voracious Larva, so we can get that down with this land and get it moving. Of course, Unearth gives us a little bit of recursion, but now next turn we can Bloodline Pretender or Turian Mauler, depending on where we're at on the board and how much mana we see. Again, we need 2 more for Disa. Well, force you turn 3, we don't draw any lands, which is part of a life sometimes. I'd get the Pretender down, calling Lurgoyf, of course, and maybe hit somebody with Grist if we can with having Death Touch, but oh well if not. Turn 4 we see the Sheltered Thicket, which is going to come in tapped, so we're potentially another turn away, but that's okay. I would get the Turian Mauler down, get a counter on the Pretender. Now the Turian Mauler is also Lurgoyf, so it's going to start getting bigger as our opponents cast spells, and we are just 1 mana away from getting Disa down and getting it set up so we can start making those Tarmogoyf tokens, but also growing the board. We'll just say that, somebody casted 2 spells around the table. I mean, it probably would be good to assume 3, that at least everybody cast 1 spells. Turian Mauler's up to a 5/5. No land, unfortunately, again, so we're going to put that Lurgoyf down. This will get another counter on the Pretender. And just setting up some more things. We have to hope that somebody has something in their graveyards, but it's okay. The cool part about the traditional Tarmogoyf is even if there's no cards, it just is a 0/1, so we're not at risk of it dying. That would grow our Mauler, and now our Maulers are pretty good attack threat. Again, all we need is that last mana to get Disa down to start making those tokens. Finally, get Sulphur Springs down. Get Disa down, Turian Mauler is going to get bigger again. And now we take a swing at somebody with the Mauler, take a swing at somebody with the Pretender, take a swing at somebody with Grist. And again, probably more often than not, at least one of them hits somebody. So we're going to get a token there, a Tarmogoyf token there, which is going to grow the Pretender. I would say at least one of them hit. Of course, if 2 of them hit, then more Tarmogoyf tokens. But as you can see, we're starting to really get in a mass here of good creatures. Again, we just need to get something into our graveyard. Well, we get Sakura Tribe-Elder, which is actually a great thing to get into our graveyard. I kind of like the idea of the Grizzly Salvage here. Reveal the top 5. Chameleon Colossus, Swamp, Signet, and Changeling. So we got 3 Goyfs there. Put a creature or land card from among them into your hand. We'll take that Swamp. All of these go into our graveyard, which is going to immediately trigger Disa, right? Because it says whenever a Lurgoyf permanent is put in our graveyard from anywhere, from anywhere other than the battlefield. So that means we get the Changeling, the Colossus, and the Pyrogoyf back. And the cool part about this one is, of course, all 3 are going to trigger Bloodline Pretender, of course, getting bigger, and we'll have got the cast off the Turian Mauler. But the cool part here is Pyrovore is actually going to see them all enter at the same time, meaning that we're going to ping somebody for 3, ping somebody for 4, and then Pyrovore is a Well, at minimum right now, it is a 2/3, but if somebody else has something else in the graveyard, it's even bigger. Potentially got 10 damage this turn just from that one play alone. Play that swamp, so we still got 4 mana. I mean, we could get Skrull or Tribelder down and sack it to go get a land. It seems like it could be a good idea now, since we're kind of running out on some. Since we've been so behind the land. But the important part here, though, is now we could always unearth that Skrull Tribelder back if we want to. But now we go to combat, Pretender attacks somebody. We would have actually had the green to flip Grist, actually, now that I think about it. So we should probably do that, since we would have definitely had the ability to do that there. We would have had that 1 mana there, and we still would have had enough for... Yeah, we still would have had the green for Skrull Tribelder, but... So that would have flipped over. Here you go, you run to combat. I mean, Terrain Mauler goes at somebody, the Pretender goes at somebody, the Goyf tokens go at somebody. And then if any of them hit, we're getting another Tarmogoyf token that now is 3 types in the graveyard, meaning Pyrogryphs hitting somebody for 3 if that happens. And now you can just start to see the board that we're building for ourselves. But let's go into another play test. Here we've got a 5-lander with Rhythm of the Wild and a Goyf in hand. So definitely interesting for sure. I love the idea of getting the landscape down and through, because then that's going to get a card type into our graveyard, right, for the purposes of all of our Goyfs. We have each of them in hand. We have 2 red-black lands, so maybe we'll get a forest here with the landscape. The landscape, of course, are new from Modern Horizons 3. Can sack to get any of those and put on the battlefield tapped, and then you can cycle it. So that comes down turn 1. Turn 2 here, Tarmogoyf Nest, so we can get that set up potentially. But I don't mind the idea of, let's see, getting the swamp down, and we'll just get that changeling down. So at least we have one creature down and getting ready to go. Turn 3 here, we see a Stitcher Supplier, which is a great card, but we don't really want to play it till Disa's out, right? Because the ability to get them back is important. Get that Rhythm of the Wild down. And I guess we could swing the changeling in, at somebody if they have a relevant place to swing it at. Turn 4 here, we can Nature's Lore, but that's really going to be it. Or we could get the nest set up. I kind of like the idea of Nature's Lore, just get another land down. I'd probably go get something like Underground Mortuary, because we can go get a forest. And we're going to surveil 1. We see a Vividescent Bog. I think we're willing to put it in the graveyard at this point. Just gets another type into the graveyard. And now turn 5, we have 6 mana, so we can get Disa down. I mean, might as well give her the counter. I don't think that we're going to swing this turn with her. Then again, we could. I mean, it is a 5/6. It is turn 5. There is a world where we swing. So I guess let's give it haste for the purposes of this. And then I would go with Stitcher Supplier. Stitcher Supplier, when it comes in, is going to put the top 3 cards of our library into a graveyard, getting a Grist, Unexpected Windfall, and Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf is going to come back. Try to swing Disa at somebody since it has haste. I just realized that this can come in, if haste, if we wanted to. We'll just give it the counter so it gets a little bit bigger. Same thing with the Supplier. We'll just give it a counter. I always like giving the counters with Rhythm of the Wild unless I really need to attack, just because you make them slightly bigger. But Disa probably gets in somewhere this turn as 5/6. We'll just assume that it does. If not, it is what it is. But let's say we get a Goyf there. The Goyf doesn't get it, of course, because it's only non-token creatures. But now we have a great board set up. 4 types. So this is a 5/6. This is a 4/5. Llanowar Waste for turn. I'll put the... pardon me. So Stitcher Supplier does it whenever it ETBs or dies. So I'll put the nest on this, I guess. So we could pay to get that, but I'll grapple with the pass. So mill 3 and then put a creature or land from your graveyard into your hand. So 1, Anger, Mortivore, and Polygoyf. So we actually got 2 Goyfs back off of that, which is really great. And we can put a creature or land. We want to keep the Anger, of course, so we're going to take the Grist back. We want to keep the Anger because now all our creatures have haste, so we'll happily put counters on these bad boys. That was 2 mana, so we don't have enough mana to do the nest this turn, which is okay. But these now come in with haste, and they can attack this turn. Which now I mean I saw reason for us not to just take a big attack here. Goyf gets to have myriad, so it's gonna be able to attack and hit some people, and we probably get another Goyf or two here probably after this attack. And now we're just sitting pretty. All we need to do is just keep taking our advantage in on that. We can unmark grave, another Lurgoyf. I would guess probably Pyro Goyf. That's the one that deals damage, right? When creatures come in, only because now, after we unmark grave, let's see, where is it? It comes in. We give it the counter from River of the Wild, since it already has haste because of anger. And it's a 5/6, so it deals 5 to somebody, right? We go to combat, swing all of these at everybody, and make some Goyfs, deal some damage to Power Goyf, make one off of this, the nest with that, make a Tarmogoyf token. And again, I think we're just sitting pretty here at this point, making these Goyfs and doing this. Again, this deck in so many ways just cracks me up that this is a thing, that we have these Goyfs and it's tribal now. You could just use them to do this. This wasn't what I expected from a Jund deck, but I think it's interesting at the same time because it's a tribe that nobody else is playing, but at the same time, it just relies on you getting those creature types in those card types in your graveyard, which can be kind of odd. But I think if we're milling ourselves well enough, it's going to be easy to do. But let me know, what do you think of Disa down in the comment section below? The deck's really interesting. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it's a great idea for a deck if you're looking for something fun that your friends probably aren't going to have. And I'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section below. But that's everything from me, and we'll catch you guys next time.